Well, again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the third Eagle Valley Behavioral Health Town Hall. We very much appreciate your time and interest in behavioral health and willingness to participate this morning. My name is Dan Godec. I, along with Mary Randall, chair the It Takes a Valley campaign for Eagle Valley Behavioral Health. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But again, we appreciate your involvement, and we'll kind of jump into our program. I did want to share a little bit of background before we begin. Most of you know, in December of 2019, the Vail Health Foundation and Eagle Valley Behavioral Health announced a plan to raise $100 million to support behavioral health initiatives in the Eagle Valley. This is on top of the $60 million pledge that had already come from Vail Health. So an ambitious goal, but certainly we've got big issues, not only in our community, but throughout society. And I think we would like to have the very best behavioral health program in the country, create a model for others to follow. And so again, we think this is the right efforts, and certainly the initiative is worth all of our time. When we started this, we talked about what we should name it, and it's called It Takes a Valley. And there are reasons we chose that name. I think behavioral health impacts everyone in our community. We've either experienced firsthand knowledge of the challenges or know somebody that has. It seems like each of us have a story that relates to these efforts. And so really it is a valley-wide issue. And we recognized that early on and felt like it needed to be included as part of the name. I think the other reason we talked about It Takes a Valley, EVBH, Eagle Valley Behavioral Health, is not one entity. Prior to 2009, we had many organizations who provided services related to behavioral health. So when you think of EVBH, think about the 25 plus partners that support our goals. You're going to hear from 4 of them today, but it's organizations, nonprofits, and the money that's raised can be designated to each of those individual partners. Eagle Valley Behavioral Health, I think, does a good job of supporting both monetarily, with services, with expertise, so that we include under the umbrella really all the organizations that are involved in behavioral health. And so, I mean, these organizations are staffed by committed professionals, boards of directors who care deeply about our valley. They commit their time and energy to overcome behavioral health issues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you generously give to EVBH, these are the organizations that are receiving your support. And as I mentioned, you can designate your gift to support any of the groups that best match your interests. You're going to hear from 4 different people today, and these are people on the front lines helping residents deal with behavioral health issues. This is part of the, I think, goal of these town halls is to introduce you all as supporters to our partners and to really get a better idea of what it is they do and the important facts of how they work. So today's events will focus on prevention and education. Our panel includes Jerry Lopez, who's our Youth Engagement Coordinator for EVBH, Erin Ivie, Executive Director for SpeakUp, ReachOut, Bratzo Horruitiner, sorry, Bratzo, I'll get that right at some point, Executive Director of My Future Pathways, and Michelle Stecher, Executive Director of Mountain Youth. And so we will have at the end of the presentations a question and answer session. And so submit your thoughts. You can do that through the Q&A section on the Zoom call, and we'll get to as many of the questions as we possibly can. And if you have a question that doesn't get asked, we will make every effort to respond to that individually so that you, again, get the information that you're looking for. So this morning, we're going to start with Jerry Lopez. As I mentioned, Jerry is the Youth Engagement Coordinator for Eagle Valley Behavioral Health. Prior to stepping up to that board, he worked as a youth advisor for Mountain Youth. He also sits on the board for SpeakUp, ReachOut, and is a scholarship recipient and a mentor of My Future Pathways. So Jerry, why don't you jump in and tell us some about what's going on at EVBH right now?
Of course, yeah. So there's a lot of things going on at EVBH. Of course, Dan, you really reached out and hit it on the spot. We're working very closely with a lot of our partners. For example, SpeakUp, ReachOut, My Future Pathways, and Mountain Youth. And our main goal, I mean, I feel like all of our main goals for this coming fall is just dealing with COVID and all the mental health and damages that may come with it. But there's just so much going around. I wish I had a list that I could carry with me every single day, because I feel like I underestimate a lot of the things that are going on. But there's a lot of really great things happening behind the scenes, and we just can't wait for our community to be able to benefit from these things.
That's great. Maybe Jerry, talk a little bit about how you work directly with the youth in the community. I know you're a young man, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the efforts that you're engaged in one-on-one or with groups.
Yeah, so the EVBH, I'm not allowed to do direct services just because of the whole contract that was put in place, but I'm able to do that thanks to My Future Pathways, for example. So some of the work that I do, as you mentioned, is being a mentor with a lot of these youth, which is one of the reasons why I feel like this EVBH's work is so important, because like you mentioned, it's not just EVBH, it's all of our partners. EVBH came in and amplified all of their missions, all of their efforts, and I'm just happy that I get to be a part of that and being able to reach out to these youth. So for example, with all the schools and how it's looking very different this semester, one of the things that we're doing is we're actually giving them a space. And I'm sure that Bratzo can talk more about this when it's his turn to talk. But we do have a center for our young people to come together and just be themselves. We have a lot of things for them to do, and I'm there. There's also a lot of my colleagues there, like David Garcia, and we do a lot of mentorship with them. So face-to-face conversations, allowing them the space to talk to us about what's going on at home, what's going on at school. And sometimes all these kids, they just want, a place to go and a place where they can rely to get food. It's not all just, oh, my parents are not doing good, or I'm struggling in this class. And there are some kids that we talk to that just want something to eat. But that's primarily what I do through EVBH, is those face-to-face conversations with these youth, just because I feel like I have a different perspective. I mean, I was born in Mexico, but I was raised here in the Valley, and all the schools that they've gone through, I feel like I can really talk to what happens in between those walls. And they know that I'm not just some other graduate from college that just wants to make another paycheck. I'm actually trying to make a difference in their lives.
Yeah, no, that's great, Gary. Not to make it too personal here, but I mean, would you be willing to share a little bit about your personal story? You described a little bit about your journey, but I know there's more to it. I've heard you speak. You speak very eloquently about kind of your challenges, and we all could not be prouder of where you are. But maybe let everybody know a little bit about what that really means.
Yeah. So I wouldn't, just to save up time, I'm not going to share my whole story, but there's a TED Talk that people can definitely look for. But I was always one of those individuals that thought that behavioral health was never going to touch me until it did. And it touched me in high school, junior year of high school. And all these thoughts that I had, I never thought I would get. Very suicidal thoughts, depressive thoughts, lonely thoughts. And I did something that I never was told to do, or was never really told at a young age that I can do. And I spoke up and I talked to a counselor. And of course, I didn't get better right away, but it felt good to get these thoughts out of my head and out into the world and share with people that care and people that are willing to listen. So that's where it all started. And it's been, I'd say it was an uphill battle. And what really helped me was, I have this motto that I live by every single day. And it's, I always strive to be the person that I needed when I was a kid. So I always work with these youth, and I tell myself that I'm going to be that person that I needed, that person that's going to be willing to listen to them and help them guide in whatever it is that's going on in their lives. Maybe it's something that I've never gone through before, but that's where our partners come in and help us really just build that gap. But I'd say today it's a great, I love the life that I live. I love the job that I have and being able to help a lot of these youth. But I say, like, today, like everybody else, it's just high levels of anxiety. Like what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen next month? What's going to happen next year? Thanks to COVID and all these things that are surrounding us, it's just really high levels of anxiety. And I share that in hopes that, people are willing to feel more comfortable speaking up, because, you know, people see me and they tell me, well, you have everything. And they wouldn't expect me to be going through a lot of these things. But I share this just because I really want to break that stigma that, you know, you could have everything and still be struggling, and that's okay. And speaking up about these things really help out, because there's always going to be somebody out there to listen. No matter, it may feel like you're alone and it may feel like nobody understands, but there's always going to be one person that's going to be willing to go through this fire with you.
No, I think that's great, Jerry. I mean, congratulations on one, being in a great spot, and the work that you're doing. It helps, and it helps on an individual basis. And you know, you're again a young man. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to be when you grow up?
I ask myself that a lot, but, you know, one thing for sure is I want to stay here in the Valley and continue helping my community members, whether that's youth or moving on to an even bigger position to help youth, but also everybody else that lives in this Valley. That's where I see myself in 5 years. Of course, I was having a conversation with some close friends yesterday, and they asked me the same thing. And all I can really think about is I really want to stay here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing, but I know that it's going to be in a similar position that I'm in today. I really love this Valley. I love this community. And somebody yesterday mentioned that this Valley isn't just a valley where the parents raise their kids, but the whole community raises their kids. So that really resonated with me, just because when I have my own kids, I would love for their teachers or their local police officers or their librarians to be able to build that connection with them and to be trusted adults for them. So that's where I see myself in 5 years, living comfortably here, helping my community, and doing the best that I can.
Yeah, no, that's great. Good answer. I think, you know, Jerry's certainly one of the ones right on the front lines. So if you've got questions or thoughts for Jerry, you know, what about this? What about that? He lives it every day, 24/7. And so, you know, we're lucky to have him as part of our team, and what a great resource. And again, we're all fortunate that you're part of it. So, yeah,
Thank you,
Jerry. Nice job. Yeah. Erin, SpeakUp, Reach Out. What a great organization. And again, just seems like coming into its own, but you've been doing that for several years. So tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. And Jerry, thank you so much for sharing your story. I have heard it multiple times, but I learn something new, I think, every time I hear from you. And it's just so incredibly important that we're sharing our stories. It is prevention and education for people to be able to hear others' lived experience and know that they're not alone in the journey that they may be experiencing. So thank you so much for that. My name is Erin Ivie. I'm the executive director of SpeakUp, ReachOut, and we are the Suicide Prevention Coalition in Eagle County. We've been in the Valley since 2009, when the organization was started by a group of concerned community members. And since then, we have grown and been able to expand. We serve pretty much anybody in Eagle County, from childhood all the way through senior adulthood. We have programming in the schools for the general community and targeted populations throughout the community. I'll talk a little bit about some of the different programming that we do in prevention and education. We have a variety of trainings that people can engage in, from a 1 hour, what we call gatekeeper training. And this is similar to wanting to have people trained in CPR and have their eyes on the community if somebody were to have cardiac arrest. We want people trained in something similar. We do a training called QPR, which stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer. And it's a 1 to 1.5 hour training on how to identify the signs of suicide, give some initial care, and then refer somebody to help. And then from there, you can get a little bit more in depth depending on how much you're looking to learn and invest in helping our community and preventing suicide. We have a program, we have 2 programs. One's called Mental Health First Aid, and then its co-training is Youth Mental Health First Aid, which is for individuals who are working with youth. And those are both, well, they range now from 6 to 8 hours, depending on the version of the class that you take. because we have, well, it's a national organization that puts on the, or puts out the curriculum. We present it here in Eagle County. And so now you have the option of taking it fully virtually with some homework in a blended format. So you do a little bit of learning at home and then you come into a classroom setting, or we're still doing some in-person training because we know that that's really important to some people. And then the biggest, longest, most in-depth training that we have is called Applied Intervention Suicide Skills Training. And ASSIST is for individuals who want to have that deeper conversation in an intervention format. That does not mean that you become their caregiver or that you are a clinician. It is really to give people the tools to have the conversation and make sure someone is safe until we can get them ongoing care. And so all of this stuff is on our website at SpeakUpReachOut.org. And I'm sure it's going to feel like I'm offloading a whole bunch of information. So I just want to let people know that you can find all of this on our website as well. We offer a workplace suicide prevention training called Working Minds. It is specific to addressing suicide in the workplace, as well as if your organization has a loss to suicide, or if you're dealing with and wanting to help support individuals who are going through a behavioral health crisis and maybe need some time off. How do you address the rest of your staff? Those kinds of things, so that we make this an issue that has no real stigma around it. We are bringing in partnership with Eagle Valley Behavioral Health, some national speakers on different topics. We've brought in a couple people around LGBTQ issues. We've talked about workplace issues. We've talked about resilience, especially in this time of COVID-19. And later this year, we'll be bringing in two more, well, actually three. Next week is our annual community walk and memorial butterfly launch. We'll be bringing in Ann Moss Rogers to discuss turning pain into purpose and how she was able to take her son's death by suicide and create a purpose for her moving forward and educating individuals about suicide and substance use and abuse. We are bringing in two speakers in a campaign called Live Through This. And this is specifically around suicide attempt survivors, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, how they're continuing to live after an attempt. And there's a website, livethroughthis.org, that highlights many stories, but we're going to bring two of those individuals to share a little bit and talk about too how peer support has been so instrumental in their recovery. And then last is we're bringing in, actually this will be a virtual presentation in regards to a gentleman who's living with bipolar disorder. And he is sharing again how he is managing that year after year, and how he has used what he has going on for himself to educate the rest of really our country in bipolar disorder and a couple other, I think, things that people just don't want to talk about. And he does that with humor, and we're really hoping to just engage individuals on a different level with that speaker. So we've been really excited to partner with EVBH on these keynote speakers. And because of EVBH, we've also been able to expand from having 1.25 full-time employees really over the last 2 years to this year expanding to 4 full-time staff members, which is so incredibly exciting. And it kind of chokes me up a little, because this is one of those things that never in my wildest dreams did I think was possible. So I'm really excited to be able to bring a team of people who are passionate about this work to the community. Actually, all of our team members are from the community and are working really hard to make sure that we're bringing new and a variety of training opportunities and prevention opportunities on a regular basis. As I noted, much of our programming, it took a little bit of time because suicide prevention training and education is a very sensitive subject. And so adapting our programming and having some of our national partners adapt programming to a virtual setting was a little bit of a feat. But I'm happy to say that 90% of what we offer now can be done in a virtual format, including the programming that we do in the schools. However, we are trying to work really hard with the school district to make sure that every student, grade 5 through 12, gets 1 hour of suicide prevention training this year, whether that's from our organization staff members or through the counselors and through some of the other teachers that are already in the schools to make sure, but we are able to do some of that virtually as well. And I will wrap up by saying that September is National Suicide Prevention Month. So there are tons of ways to get involved, especially in this month, but all year round in suicide prevention and educating yourself how to identify the signs and how to get somebody help. I really do believe in the "it takes a valley" saying, because it is going to take every single one of us to be able to stop suicide in our community. And that doesn't just look like taking intervention trainings. That looks like pro-social opportunities and engagements like Mountain Youth and My Future Pathways provides, opportunities for mentorship and collaboration and community connectedness and just kindness in general. And so I love working with the partners at EVBH because I don't have to reinvent something that many of them are already doing. We're just able to collaborate and share with one another how we can best serve this community, because this really isn't about any one of our organizations. This is about the one life that we may be able to save.
Yeah, well said, Erin. Thank you for your passion and for the work. I think I would encourage everybody on this call to participate on a virtual training session, just so that you're aware of maybe some of the signs. I know Erin and the group at EVBH designed a little plastic card that you can carry with you. And we've got copies of those available. You just need to reach out and let us know you'd like one. And it talks about, what do you say if somebody's, just not quite right, and they're a friend, they're a coworker, they're somebody you come across at the store. It gives you some insight into maybe opening up a dialogue that then leads to, Erin and to Erin's group. And so, again, the more we understand or recognize some of the signs, as Erin said, the goal is to save a life. And you talk about rewarding and satisfaction, recognizing it early and helping that person out. It's so important, and there's more to do, unfortunately. It's a never-ending cycle, it seems like. So again, feel free to follow up with Erin or the SpeakUp ReachOut website for those virtual classes. Again, the more you know, the more you can help. So I really believe that it's well worth it. So next on our list is somebody I don't think needs a big introduction. Everybody knows Bratzo as Bratzo, and so he's really become a presence and a force in our valley. Besides being a world-class soccer player, he's just a great guy, and his efforts with My Future Pathways, and prior to that, some Guardian Scholarship work. I think we're all fortunate that he's here. And again, welcome Bratzo to the panel. And tell us a little bit more about My Future Pathways.
Hi, Dan. Thank you. Hello, everybody in the community. Thanks for the opportunity to share a little bit about what we've been doing, what we're putting our efforts. We are definitely working together as a bunch of nonprofits and smart people to try to tackle all these issues in the community, and working together is definitely the way to do it. And we are helping creating a better Valley for all by supporting youth on their pathway to becoming professionals that can stay and contribute to their community as leaders. Our programs begin at middle school and support kids through their high school and higher education career, including individualized and social emotional support, which is key, as well as family engagement at every step of the way to ensure program completion, right? We promote graduation rates, we promote higher education, employability, and leadership. In addition, we also contribute to the achievement of the systematic community goal, prioritizing all these things that we're talking right now. Our programming start let me give you a little bit of a background. I work with Guardian Scholars, which is a scholarship program that is support students 100% on their pathways. The issue in the nation is only 11% of college students graduate from college. First generation students graduate from college due to a lot of different issues. And through Guardian Scholars, we are 90% there because we do a holistic approach and we are rifle instead of shotgun type of deal. And we focus on everybody, but we still have that 10% of people that don't graduate. And it's always because of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, suicide attempts, very high achiever students then dealing with a lot of mental issues. So with that, talking with Ron Davis, Don Remy, and Julie Keith, we were talking about what's going on with the boys. And we figured out that in our valley, our boys are not graduating high school. It's almost 50-50 with our first generation boys. And it's due to many issues. And then we start targeting 7th grade boys all the way to 12th grades. And we also created a scholarship fund to CMC, which help 33 students currently. We are only in our 2nd year, and we are supporting 100% this youth to become professionals and to give back. This have to be done by dual generation approach, including the parents. So the parents are driving the car, and we try to be the co-pilot and invite a lot of our nonprofits to be in the same car to go to a safe harbor per se. So we do all kinds of series and talks to the parents. We work with Mountain Youth to provide mentoring and tutoring for our students. We have our scholarships are not only for boys, are for everybody, for boys and girls, gender neutral, through CMC. We also recently opened a youth center right next to Alpine Bank in Edwards, which is an amazing opportunity for the kids to have a safe space. We have computers, internet. Now through COVID times, it's very important to facilitate a safe environment where they can go do some tutoring, some learning experiences. We have computers, internet, printer, the whole full office, plus ping pong tables and a fun space that the community also can use for do presentations. Erin through SpeakUp or ReachOut are going to be training all our college students to be supporters to other youth, and also some presentations for all their peers and other members in the community. Let me jump into now what we're doing with BBH, which is very relevant. Is kind of the purpose of our conversation here. Eagle Valley Behavioral Health has been our stronger partner, and the fascinating and awesome situation here is bringing everybody to the table now to working together. Are we good? Done?
Bratzo, I think it's breaking up a little bit, but yeah, I think, go ahead.
Coming back?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I have a sign there and the internet connection was not that great. So hopefully we can continue with not that many issues. So through EVVH and Guardian Scholars, we've been educating a lot of students. We normally have 45 students in the pipeline at CMU, and we have a lot of social workers and psychology students. And the idea was to try to bring local students bilingual, bicultural, and then can provide services for our community. So right now we are providing Masters of Social Work in partnership with also Denver University to increase bicultural and bilingual capacity in our valley. So right now we have 5. We have 2 ladies, Coco and Gladys, working with the paramedics as first responders. They are great members of the community, and they also engage with all the other organizations. Of course, we have Jerry Lopez working as a mentor lead for our youth. You know, we try to make these kids talk and feel welcome and build trust. And then from there, we start our services, right? We also provide the opportunity gap situations with the support. We just took a bunch of kids to play paintball and do zip lining, being outside, having fun, becoming friends. That's mental health prevention right there. And then we talk about issues and how to understand your emotions. And Jerry and David Garcia are being 2 young students, product of our valley, and they've been instrumental for this, being the peer-to-peer support, because I become a boomer, as they describe me, and I'm not relevant as I'm becoming 43 years old. You know? Then we also have an internship program. We have working with young professionals. Right now, we are helping Eagle Valley Behavioral Health achieve their goal through the COVID response in CMM. We have some students answering the phones and working in the Mira bus. It's the third month that we are providing interns full-time there. We are also sitting on the advisory board so we can do some strategic planning with other partners. We also doing a brand new amazing program. It's a loan forgiveness program. Then we promote recruiting and maintaining mental health professionals in the Valley through supporting their loan payments and keep them here. With that, they have to provide also 12 hours of their own time to support the kids in more needs, or the community in most needs, through the Olivia's Fund and many other amazing avenues, and they can provide their services. What else are we doing with Eagle Valley Behavioral Health? We have the masters, we have the internship. They supporting our efforts 100%, and then we are exposing our youth to more professional development opportunities because of our partnership. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great, Bratzo. With COVID, what have kind of been some of the unique, challenges? I know you mentioned a couple different modifications that were done in your programming, but what else with COVID? Is it created more opportunities in some ways for you?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like we are like front of the line people. I always tell my team, I'll be very proud because you guys are very brave by staying open and being in contact to everybody. Of course, at the youth center, we are all using all the requested or required measurements to maintain social distancing, using masks and all that stuff. But we also providing sports activities. We do boxing and kickboxing classes. We do yoga and meditation at the youth center for kids, and this is open for everybody, middle school all the way to college graduation age. So they can come in and do some sports. And it's important to keep people engaged, happy. Mental health it works always hand to hand to physical activity as well. So we believe in that. We doing a high intensity interval training with David, which I'm afraid to take. It's a very hard class. The kids are there doing some fun stuff, and also coming in and talking, and also through the school, providing that safe environment where they can have tutoring either virtually. We are using this amazing model that we have all these 45 college students, and they become mentors in middle school and high school, and Mountain Youth is doing elementary school tutoring. So it's phenomenal. We're using these college students and can support high school and middle schoolers and create this sense of community and doing something with them. And all these are paid opportunities for the youth as well. So just by having this youth center open every day, weekends, we are definitely helping these kids to be doing something. A lot of the sports are being closing or being rescheduled, and it's a lot of limitations because of COVID, and we're trying to maintain one door open, always monitoring, of course, the volume of people that we have, and try to have a healthy rotation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Bratzo, I know there are lots and lots of success stories, either Guardian Scholars or My Future Pathways. I think, most of us are in business in one way or another. And I've seen personally either interns or graduates step into a business in the Valley and really be successful. It's created a kind of a bench, if you will, of talent. And again, hopefully, if you are a business owner or have any say in the hiring at your company, again, reach out to Bratzo or to the Guardian Scholar Group, and again, look at those resumes. These are sharp kids, and they were at risk at one point. And through these programs, Ron was visionary in founding both of those. And with your leadership, I think it's just taken it to a whole nother level. So, maybe talk about a couple of the success stories that come to mind.
Oh, absolutely. Jerry mentioned, Jerry's one, but Jerry's a success of everybody. I think he's a rock star, solid. But we have Eric Garcia, which he was the first Guardian Scholar and now sits on R.A. Nelson. He recently married. He buy his own house. He's a very active member in the community to many boards. He sits with us in the Eagle River Scholarship Fund, and it's another scholarship fund that we give. We promote to youth. Every day we have people at the board at the hospital, not at the board of the hospital, sorry, but in decision making. We have accountants in the hospital, Bell Health. We have people in the county. Right now our 5 social workers are working, one in Montal Family Health Center, one in the county as a crisis responder for families and children. Those are all Guardian Scholars, and they are local kids, bicultural and bilingual, and being put in. They've been given this opportunity of not only the scholarship but the mentoring and the family around them, so the dreams start coming through, and then we start providing our own in-house growth talents.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And last question, Bratzo, then we'll move on. But do you feel like the kids that are in your program, I mean, they've got peers that they hang out with, they've got, friends, and I'm assuming it rubs off that, what you bring to those kids in the way of support and really love and what they need, I'm assuming that just doesn't stop with that one child. It goes beyond that.
For sure. We are a young organization, but we have many years of experience, combined experience for sure. And the fantastic thing is now we have those examples of graduates. We are hiring through our internship program. We have Yesenia Briones, she just got her associates in business and moving to her bachelor's, and she's working with us. So when the kids come in, those are the kids and present them. Those are the kids and they are professionals. They're talking about our organization. They are the leads of our program, and they see that it's possible. They can see themselves through the future. We have Leslie Chavez, and is working with us right now pretty much full time, and she's moving to Colorado Mesa to become a social worker. And the kids are seeing that, and I think it's a lot of value, and it's very important that they can see what they can do and what is a tangible goal. So that's the magic of it as well.
Yeah. Well, again, congratulations on all the success. So that's great. Yeah. Michelle, we'll move on to you, Executive Director, Mountain Youth. So tell us a little bit about you and about the organization.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning with this amazing group of panelists. As Dan mentioned, my name is Michelle Stecher, and I serve with Mountain Youth. We are an organization dedicated to prevention education. With youth in our name, we serve young people, elementary through kind of the young adult population. We know that in order to make an impact in their lives, it takes looking more broadly. So we also serve parents, family members, caregivers, trusted adults, which I'll talk more about in a bit, and other providers that serve those populations. So it's been such a gift to get to work with SpeakUp, ReachOut, My Future Pathways, and dozens of other agencies in the community. So talking a little bit about the work that we do, I'm actually going to share my screen and pull up a visual here and hope that this works. Hope that's visible for folks. And I wanted to talk first about a project called the Healthy Kids Colorado Survey. This is a project that Mountain Youth has been providing for the community since our inception almost 20 years ago. And it's us in understanding the behaviors and needs and strengths facing young people. And we're so grateful to get to partner with schools and many other entities in the community so that this information can be available to the whole community. This is public information that can help steer priorities, make decisions, and secure resources to improve the lives for youth and families. Our last administration was about 9 months ago, the very end of 2019, so pre-COVID. And we are really deep into analyzing results right now through a local assessment, and wanted to share just a high-level snapshot of some of the behavioral health data that we are seeing. And just a couple background notes on the project, the Healthy Kids Colorado Survey, we had about 4,000 students grades 6 through 12 participate. We were able to partner with 14 middle and high schools. We are the only community in the state of Colorado that has had 100% of those schools opt in. Private, parochial, and public schools want to be a part of this project. And so we're really grateful from Mountain Youth to get to administer this work that benefits the whole community. So as you can see here, I'm showing some high school substance use data. And we did have a bit of a spike in 2017. This is an every other year survey. And then we saw our 2019 substance use behaviors for the most part fall back down, similar to what we saw 2 administrations ago. So a little bit of an uptick in 2017 and in 2019 back down a bit. What this means in the context of broader youth behaviors, we are slightly above our state and regional counterparts for alcohol consumption and slightly below marijuana use compared to state and regional counterparts. And another note that I'll put out from the substance use side with high school behaviors, we saw about a 2-fold increase, twice as many self-reported marijuana impaired driving reports in 2019 than we saw just a few years back. Middle school substance use trends are looking pretty similar to high school, where we saw that uptick in 2017 and then decrease again in 2019. We are similarly trending a little higher in alcohol use than statewide counterparts at the middle school level, and a little bit lower in marijuana use rates for middle schoolers than our statewide counterparts. And then getting into a few mental health related areas, and this is really an attempt at distilling about 200 questions down to just a couple of highlights that might help us understand the landscape here. This is our depression indicator in the Healthy Kids Colorado survey. We've still continued to see an increase in students reported signs of depression at the high school level. So you can see about a 10% climb over the past 4 years in students feeling so sad or hopeless that their behaviors and activities changed as a result of that. That is right on par with statewide and regional counterparts. And then from the suicide realm, I wanted to share these statistics in suicide attempts. And I'd say it's a little tough sometimes to look at percentages when we're talking about such serious topics. So we also like to look at the context of what demographics are showing more favorable or more risky behavior trends. And then also looking at this and what it would break down into actual numbers of students. But we did see a pretty consistent self-reported suicide attempts amongst our high schoolers throughout the past few years, and a slight decrease in middle schoolers reporting suicide attempts. We are pretty close, again, to where our statewide and regional partners are. I would say at the high school level, we are coming in slightly less than statewide counterparts at the middle school level for middle school students reporting suicide attempts. And then at the high school level, we are pretty much right in the middle of where our statewide and regional counterparts are. I saw Michael Imhoff ask a question earlier, and hopefully we can get to it with Erin in just a bit about any kind of general rates of attempts versus suicide completions. And I will share with other questions around suicide in the Kids Colorado survey. We tend to see the past few administrations about 15% of high schoolers considering suicide, a couple percentage less, about 13% having made a plan, and then about half that number actually reporting that they have made an attempt. So hopefully that helps with a bit of context. So now, relating back to all of our work and some of the positives or hopes or ways that we can combat these behavioral health challenges that we're seeing. So it, again, has been such a joy to be with Bratzo and Erin and Jerry on this panel. All of their efforts work with, the term we use is trusted adults. So a parent, a coach, an adult in a young person's life that they can go to, that they have a trusting relationship if they're concerned about themselves or about a peer. And this is one of the number one, we call protective factors in helping to develop resilient young people who are able to buffer risky behaviors. And the research shows that having one or more caring adults in a child's life increases the likelihood that they will flourish and become productive adults themselves. That research is done by Child Trends. So we are really glad that in our community, we have high rates of young people saying that they have that person in their life. And through programs like SpeakUp, ReachOut, the work that they're doing in the classrooms, they're having young people at a young age start to identify who is that. Even if I don't have an issue or a need right now, I want to know in my mind who that adult is so that I can access them very easily when I might need their support. And another really strong protective factor or asset that we have in our community that many of our organizations here today focus on is this term pro-social opportunities. So positive, healthy activities for young people, constructive use of their time. And so you can see this top graph here has about half of our young people reporting that they are volunteering in the community. And about 70% of our young people reporting that they are in extracurricular activities. This can be sports, clubs. It does not necessarily have to be school-based activities. So a lot of our amazing nonprofit partners in the community are offering opportunities as well. And these figures are similar to our statewide counterparts also. So that wraps up what I wanted to share on the Healthy Kids Colorado survey, and I wanted to give that information for a couple of reasons. This is a project that Eagle Valley Behavioral Health supports with, and so we're so grateful again for the community and the agencies to be able to access this information. We are right now, and I'm going to stop sharing for a bit, we are right now in the middle of a more in-depth local analysis on our local results from 2019. We are hoping to have a public web-based dashboard available in the next week or two, where anyone from the community can go in and look at local behaviors and cross-cut them by different filters for demographics such as age, grade, gender, and where they live. And so, yeah, that will be a great project. In the meantime, if you wanted to see more about the local results or statewide results, we have that listed at mountainyouth.org. You can go onto our website and find the original full report from the state, or feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to provide other data that would be helpful. So a little bit more about what Mountain Youth does besides providing this project for the community. Like I said, we focus a lot on prevention education for youth, families, and providers. And two main areas that we've been grateful to have Eagle Valley Behavioral Health support with. The first I'll talk about is family education. We know while adolescents might not be the first ones to admit it, their parents and caregivers remain the #1 influencers in their lives, even through their teenage years. And so in order to make an impact in a child's life, we need to make sure that parents and caregivers and those trusted adults are equipped with the skills and education to best support, best communicate with their families. And so our sort of flagship program there, you might have heard of, called Eat Chat Parent. It's a free series that we offer in English and in Spanish through support from Eagle Valley Behavioral Health, where similarly to SpeakUp, ReachOut, we work with national level speakers and authors. We used to love having them here in person and packing the biggest auditoriums we could in the Valley. These days, those events are happening virtually. Which the silver lining there has been that we have really high quality recordings available for folks to view at a time that's convenient for them if they can't make it when our events are running live but virtual. In addition to Eat Chat Parent, we also have a family program called We Hear You, more intervention based for families seeking a little bit more hands-on skills development. And then the other area that Eagle Valley Behavioral Health has been a huge supporter of with Mountain Youth programs has been our pro-social opportunities. So again, if we think back to those protective factors, just chances for young people to get involved. It doesn't always have to be, you know, a structured sport or art program or things like that. Like Bratzo mentioned, great act they've done with My Future Pathways. It can look like just opening up doors for young people growing up in our community to get to enjoy some of the experiences that we attract from tourists all over the world. And so we've been grateful to be able to offer events, some in person this summer, and we're looking forward to having more of those once health restrictions lift. More recently, those have looked like events celebrating art as a coping mechanism, the Movies in the Park events in partnership with Mountain Rec and others. Cooking classes, we've offered yoga. We just know that now more than ever, that chance for connection and not always finding a social outlet with risky, for example, substance use behaviors being in the picture is so critical for young people and people of all ages. A couple of other areas that we work in are youth engagement and advising, and then delivering life skills programs in schools. With COVID here in 2020, our youth engagement and advising work has really blown up. We recognized in the spring with the stay-at-home orders, many young people, even though they were working hard to fulfill expectations with school and other obligations, many of them had more time on their hands than they were used to. And so we had dozens of young people come to us with project proposals. We're able to resource and support those concepts. One that Bratzo had mentioned is what was named Tugia. For us, that matches high school or college age students with elementary age children and their families in a group tutoring format. Most of that has been virtual, but we've been able to hold a few sessions over at the My Future Pathways Youth Center in Edwards. Thank you, Bratzo. And it's been a really nice pipeline for us to get to serve those elementary age parents and then kind of have them grow into opportunities with Bratzo's group. And Tugia has been great because not only do we recognize that those young children could benefit from supports, but a lot of families were left last spring with just many questions and needing support on how to guide their children academically, but in other areas. And so it was a very personal approach to that. To a question that was asked a little bit ago about training for those peer mentors, most of the training for those tutors in our Tugia program was internally with Mountain Youth, and then with other resources and best practices through the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So most were more focused on training around positive youth development, brain development, communication, and positive relationship building, whereas the academic pieces were, they were important for us for sure, but required a little bit less training for our older peer tutors. And I guess I'd say to wrap up, we've been very grateful to get to partner with Eagle Valley Behavioral Health and many agencies to operate our programs. Not only have we benefited from the financial resources they've provided to help Mountain Youth out, but also opportunities like this for us to pull our collective wisdom together, learn from each other, not reinvent the wheel. Mountain Youth rebranded last year, and our tagline was Stronger Together. And during this year of COVID, that tagline for us could not be more important. So we appreciate getting to work with all of you, and would love to follow up and field any questions or connection opportunities that you might have.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Nice job. A couple questions for Erin. I think Michelle touched on one. Suicide attempts versus actual suicides. Is there any data out there that talks about if you try once, what are the, I guess maybe if you could expand on that question a little bit, then I've got a follow-up to ask as well.
Absolutely. So the basic data, very short and sweet, is that research shows for every completed death by suicide that there are at least 25 attempts. Now that doesn't mean by the same person. So I just want to be clear that that means in a population for each death, there is estimated 25 attempts. So if we're looking nationally at 48,000 deaths a year, we're looking at just over 1 million individuals who are attempting. Now, that might seem like doom and gloom to people, but what I see is hope. If 1 million people have attempted suicide and 48,000 have died in the United States per year, there's a huge gap there, which to me is hope. It's hope that there is something else. It's hope that there is a trusted adult. It's hope that there is someone who's willing to listen, somebody who has found something more to their life and chose not to go on to die by suicide. With the data that Michelle shared in youth, I would say similar things with that although we see a higher percentage of youth who are experiencing depression or anxiety, it goes down when you look at how many are considering suicide, and then down a little bit more on those who have actually made a plan, and then down even more on those who have attempted. So although we have to take that data very seriously, and it is a driver in what we do, it also teaches us that there is something for individuals that is hopeful. And the answer, that kind of other piece, is that most individuals who attempt suicide and live do not go on to take their life.
Great, thanks, Erin. I had a question that Michelle or Erin may be the appropriate response. We talked about middle school kids, we talked about high school kids, we've talked about college kids. What about the young kids? I mean, primary school. Unfortunately, we're seeing instances of behavioral health really dip down into some of the youngest age, residents of our valley. What's being done there, or what type of research is being conducted to try and figure out how broad that problem is?
I'm sure Michelle can expand, but I do know that UBU is another partner organization that is providing K through 5 social emotional learning and education opportunities, again, to really start to address these basic things around social emotional learning and needs at a young age. And then Early Childhood Partners does a lot in the really young aged population. So 0 to, I think they serve like 9, I think is kind of their threshold. I think they help families even beyond that, but that's their main focus group. And they spend a lot of time educating families, but they do provide services also to those very young individuals, as does the Vail Mind Center. And we are working with Eagle Valley Behavioral Health right now and Dr. Casey Wolfington to bring some additional education and continuing education opportunities for our clinicians and individuals in the Valley around play therapy and serving that youngest population.
Great.
Yeah,
Michelle,
Jeannie,
anything? Yeah, go ahead.
sure. Yeah, Jeannie, thank you so much for asking this question. I used to be in the mindset that it seemed like our early childhood providers did a great job focusing on social emotional learning and building some of those core skills early on. And then by the time our kiddos hit kindergarten, they were kind of expected to already know all of that. And now we're moving on to core academics. I've been really proud to recognize the shift in our school district and more broadly over the past few years in prioritizing social emotional learning in elementary years and beyond. Besides the direct programs that Mountain Youth provides, we also pulled together a group of prevention providers over the past few years to focus on mapping out all of the programs we have and make sure that they're getting delivered to the age groups in the manner that is most impactful. And so SpeakUp, ReachOut, UBU, Break Future Foundation, and others have been really instrumental in mapping that out. I would say my take before kindergarten years even, the most important skills seem to be able to focus on communication, healthy coping mechanisms, and mindfulness, and then also to be able to provide family-based programs. I'll give a shout out to Early Childhood Partners and their Incredible Years class, which my family participated in, and it was really a game changer in how we communicate and how we set expectations for our young children. And then moving again into the elementary years, it's been great to know that the district and schools are prioritizing much of this mindfulness and life skills programming to happen in the school building so that the students are getting consistent information around those topics.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Erin. Just a quick heads up for everybody on the call. Our next town hall, which will take place in October, will be really focused on schools and school districts and some of the challenges. And I think we'll have had about a little over a month of experience in how it's all working. So I would encourage you all to watch for that notice and certainly plan to participate in the next town hall. So maybe just one more quick question and then a real quick comment. There was a question regarding food insecurity. I can tell you that the community markets are committed and have resources available to continue the programming in a similar, I guess, volume that it is now through the winter. And so we're obviously, probably need some more support from the community, but we feel like we've got a good program going and we're not going to do anything to disrupt that. And then Bratzo, I know there was a question about your loan forgiveness program. You touched on it, but didn't really go into any detail. maybe you can respond to that question in a little more detail, because it sounded kind of interesting, unless you want to touch on it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Erin, thank you. It's a great question. It's between 3 and 5 years. We're providing between $500 a month for a loan repayment. The employer have to commit some of the time of the professional providers to, to help the most in need population. But it's about $30,000 per individual, up to $30,000 per individual. This can be in a period of 3 to 5 years, and they have to stay here, commit to the programming, and it's a lot of more information, and I can totally provide that. So yeah, it's 3 to 5 years and up to $30,000 per individual to retain and also promote recruitment for higher professionals here, especially Latinx or bilingual, bicultural. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great program, Bratzo. Yeah, thank you. Well, we appreciate the panelists. Thank you all for your time and passion for what you do and commitment to our community, for participating on the phone. Again, thank you. We promised to keep it to an hour, and we're right there. There's several other questions that we will respond to on an individual basis, but again, congratulations for the success. A lot more to do. So again, we appreciate everybody's support. You all have a great Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you.